And this is Erika. Hi, Erika.
Hello, everyone.
And so today, we're going to talk about a little bit about your establishment, but we're really going to focus on the bar area and the two positions of bartender and bar back. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So Erika, how long have you been here at Hookah? Or at Dreamers,
Dreamers, I actually have 22 years experience, showing my age now. Actually, that's not true. It's 23 years now experience bartending. But we've only been open and operating at Dreamers for about 2 years.
Okay, wonderful. So you said you've been a bartender for about 22 years.
Yes. The day before we opened here, or the week before, I was still working at my old job where I was at for 20 of those years. And then the next weekend we opened here, and I'm part owner of this establishment. So
okay, wonderful. So that's a long time in one career.
It is.
That. So when we talk about bartending and things like that, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a bartender? Sort of like an open-ended question.
It is. I think one of the biggest things is you have to like people. I can, when I have new staff that I train, I can teach them the skill set behind the bars or to waitress outside of here. What I can't do is teach them to just generally be a nice person and not get irritated, because it can be pretty challenging to try and keep everybody happy and to keep all the balls in the air at the same time. Especially on a busy night when you have 5 people that want you at the same time, you have to be able to figure out which is the biggest fire at what time, how to prioritize those customers, which is the biggest priority at that time. I think those are the 2 biggest characteristics, like personality characteristics that you would need in order to do this. And the rest of it is just kind of learning how to ride a bike. Once you learn those skills, it doesn't matter if you're at this bar or another bar. It's kind of like putting a duck in water. You just acclimate, figure out what the bottles are, and can continue.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked a little bit about skills, the skills that you could teach someone. What if you were going to hire someone to come in and be a bartender? Let's talk about a bartender first.
Okay.
You were going to hire someone to come in here and be a bartender. What skill sets are you looking for?
I should preface by saying that all of my staff are cross-trained, meaning that they can work on the floor and waitress or behind the bar.
Okay.
And a lot of my staff had no experience when I hired them. A lot of bars will require you having experience before, but I think it's the professor in me that I want to educate, I want to teach people. So a lot of our staff had no knowledge of this industry. One of my best waitresses at this time had never served a drink, never even waitressed at like an IHOP before. She came in here and she's doing a phenomenal job. The experience is helpful unless you find someone that is open to doing just the training aspect. So usually they're going to look for experience. I think I'm kind of the exception to the rule for that. I think it's easier for me to teach someone how I want it done as opposed to break bad habits that they might have picked up at another establishment.
Okay. So if someone fills out an application to come in, and so when you interview that person, along with that personality piece that you talked about, what other skills basic skills would someone need to be able to be the server or bartender here?
I think one of the big things is just being able to multitask. One of the things I think that helped me succeed in this career is just me being a mother. And I have 4 children, I have 2 grandchildren, and to be able to, have all of them, mom, grandma, all at the same time, and to be able to, again, prioritize what needs my attention first, second, and third. So even just my mom skills helped me immensely. But I also am a firm believer that everybody should work in this industry at some level just to have a better understanding of humankind and how to act when you go out. The person that would be a good bartender or a good waitress would have to have a thick skin. It's not always the most pleasant thing in the world if a customer is not happy. It can be challenging to try and de-escalate them if we take that personally. So recognizing it's not a personal attack on me, they're upset because their food order took too long or the drink wasn't how they wanted it made. And if you internalize that, then it could be challenging in this career. You have to make sure that you separate me as a person versus the role that I'm playing at this particular time.
Okay. So what about the skill set of like math and reading and like that?
I won't even say really that I guess the biggest thing I'm looking at is their life skills.
Okay.
So it doesn't even necessarily, no, I'm almost done with my PhD and I'm still standing behind a bar. So the book aspect of it, basic math skills.
Okay.
And the big thing for that is so that my money doesn't come up short, but also so theirs doesn't come up short and they actually have something at the end of the night to go home to, or go home with. And but our POS system, which stands for point of sale system, really even eliminates a lot of those challenges because you can put in, you'll see exactly what their tab or their balance is, and you can put in exactly how much money you receive, and it will even tell you what the change is. So as long as you can count change back, which I've had to teach that as well, actually, to some individuals, how to properly. If your change is $5, I don't want to give you a $5 bill because I want you to have money to be able to tip me. So, tricks like I'm not going to give you a $5 bill back. I'm going to give you 5 ones back so that you have the opportunity then to be like, oh, here. So just kind of those tricks of the trade to make things run smoothly. Okay,
beautiful. So what kind of education does someone have? What kind of educational needs are here to be able to be a bartender server?
I think it's just life skills. It doesn't have to be necessarily, I don't really even look at their education. I'm looking more experience and definitely call personal references. I don't hire without either knowing the person that referred them to me and having that trust in that individual. So that goes back to the not what you know, but who you know, which unfortunately does carry a lot of weight in this business because I can have somebody that has, I had a young lady that had a lot of experience. And when I met her to talk to her, she kept telling me about how she was so amazing that a section that usually took 3 servers, she could do by herself and she ran it all the time. To me, I see a red flag saying this is not a team person. I can't put that in the mix with my team. And we don't actually even refer to them as a team. My partner and I refer them to as our family. We do a lot of extracurricular stuff. We just went sledding with our security team and some of the staff here. We're having a baby shower coming up for, we're gonna have our first dream team baby coming really soon. So we're excited about that too. So this is more of a family, and the team takes really good care of each other. If one person, we use the expression, gets in the weeds, gets too busy, then it's not uncommon for my bartenders to step out from behind the bar and to go help the waitresses, or vice versa. If they're waiting for drinks and my bartenders are getting slammed, they'll come back and we take care of each other. And normally on a night for me, I might be taking out trash, refilling toilet paper, obviously washing my hands first, but cooking food or doing drinks. I don't know. I have my Fitbit on, and there are some times where I do maybe between 8 and 10 miles in a night.
Okay.
So you do have, that's another skill set. You can't be lazy. If you don't like to move, if you don't like to work, this is not the field for you. You definitely need to find something else.
So moving around a lot, on your feet a lot, basic math skills, really good personality, team player.
Yes.
We cover the majority of for your world, what we're looking for.
Yes, I think another thing that I express is when you look at the restaurant or the bar that you are working for, and I'm going to focus more on the bar because I don't have a lot of just restaurant experience, but I tell my staff, this is kind of like if you were a hairdresser. I provide you the booth, the electricity, all the tools that you need. But to ensure that you're going to be busy and, taking the money home the level that you would like to, you also have to have that personality to where you're a go-getter and will, share on social media, these are the events that we have going on, or these are, this is when I'm here. And that has a huge impact on the success of Dreamers in itself, because we are blessed to have team members that are on social media saying, hey, we have this big event coming on. We have a masquerade party on Thursday that we were supposed to do Tuesday, but because of the weather. So things like that. My staff is amazing at, promoting that kind of stuff. And they know that does better for their families so that they can, feed them and take care of them as well.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about licensing if somebody was going to come work here? Can you talk a little bit about this liquor license and what that means?
Yes. The liquor license is actually fairly easy to do. You just go onto the state of Indiana website, and it will ask you a few questions. I believe the liquor license, it's around $50 right now, but that lasts for 2 years.
Okay.
So usually you would make those tips in less than a day back. So it's kind of a little investment. There are some requirements. You can't have like multiple DUIs. That's another thing that I should point out. If you have addiction issues, this is not the field for you.
Okay.
Your stop button has to be able to work well in order to maintain your own personal health. But also with that liquor license comes accountability that if you serve to a minor or if you overserve someone, not only can the establishment get fined, but also the individual.
Okay.
So there's a safe serve program that Indiana requires as well, which I think has been an amazing asset. Because when I started, that was not a requirement, but it teaches you the safe levels of alcohol, how much people can consume at any one point. It teaches you the responsibilities that you as an individual have. And some of the fines can be up to a $5,000 personal fine.
Wow.
So if somebody tells you you're cut off, arguing with them is not going to help. $5,000 is a lot of tips, a lot of drinks to swing to cover that fine.
Okay, and that's a requirement to be able to serve alcohol here in the state of Indiana.
Yes,
okay.
Not in the waitress or the bartender or even a bar back. So somebody that's just stocking beer, in order for them to be behind the bar and touching the alcohol, they have to have a liquor license.
Okay, I know that some of you had talked about that, whether you're working in a bar or you're working at some of the outside venues. So now we have the information about getting your liquor license. So that's something we can definitely look at when we're talking. So do we have any questions right now before we move into like some movement? Okay.
Yeah, we've got a few questions here. One, how old do you have to be to work there?
In our establishment, my staff, the weight is 21. It is possible to get a liquor license at 18 with some restrictions. Now, to work just in the bar in general, I have some security that are under 21. My entertainment, I have DJs that come in that are under 21, and they can come in that, with that job description. But we just, again, have to be really careful that they're not being served or anything. So for me personally, I would not hire anyone under 21 just because it's challenging to make sure that they're following all those rules, that, they're not sneaking a shot or that, those kind of things. So for their protection and mine, I wouldn't hire anybody under 21.
Okay, great.
And for that license, is that for like the waitress that's taking maybe a beer bottle or a glass of beer that was ordered? If they're not the one pouring it, do they also have to have a license if they're just taking it to the table?
Good question. Yes, they absolutely do. You have to have a liquor license to be able to sell. So even my bartender's making it, my waitress is collecting the money for it. They have to have a liquor license.
Okay.
Thank you. How do you train someone to work behind the counter?
Usually my personal preference is I usually start individuals on the floor because just jumping back behind the bar and, I have 23 years experience. So I know the different job or the different drinks to pour. But somebody that doesn't have any experience to come back here and have somebody order, a Manhattan or a dirty martini, that I think that would be too overwhelming. I would be personally overwhelmed as well. So we usually start on the floor and just teach them. We have like normal drinks.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple signature drinks, that we pour here, but it takes a little while to learn like what is an IPA beer. And initially it's going to be a lot of questions to me, hey, what's an IPA? Okay, these are the IPAs that we carry, or they want to know what vodkas we have. The POS system in my establishment is set up where they can see a list of vodkas, but a lot of times they don't want to take a picture of the QR code. They just want the wait staff to be able to tell them. So like, what kind of tequilas do we have?
Yeah.
Is Hennessy a whiskey? No, Hennessy is a cognac. So it's just experience. And like I said, I start on the floor so they have that opportunity to ask questions and to depend on the rest of the team to help educate them, as opposed to putting them behind the bar right away. Would be challenging. And with all of my servers that are cross-trained, they started out waitressing or being wait staff. I have no problem hiring meals that would want to be on the floor as well. So to watch those pronouns.
Yeah.
But they started as wait staff, and then on slower nights, they'll say, "Hey, what is a dirty martini?" And I was like, "Come back here, let me show you." So we'll get the olive juice out and tell them, it could be vodka or gin. We need to make sure that we know. And if it is vodka, what kind of vodka do they want? So teaching them how to ask all the questions. So the following week, somebody orders a dirty martini. They're saying vodka or gin, and what kind of vodka would you like? And then they're ordering it, say, "Hey, I need a Grey Goose martini." And I'm like, "Yay, look, we just learned." So it's just those baby steps, and that experience is really important. Again, if I have those personality characteristics and they have good energy, especially me, being a professor on top of this, I can teach that kind of stuff. As long as somebody's willing to do it. And if you're not willing to do it, that will show on the tips that you take home and how much you're on the schedule.
Okay, there you go. Any more questions, Taylor?
Yeah, the next question kind of builds off of that. Do I need to know how to make specialty drinks, or can I be trained?
Could absolutely. Like I said, I can't speak for all bars. For me personally, as a bar owner, I have no problem training somebody. And it's almost, I don't want to say preferable, but it's not an inconvenience as long as they have those personality characteristics and they're not afraid to work. I have an amazing team here right now. So if I see somebody that, doesn't seem like they're a go-getter, they're willing to put in the time or to break a sweat, it doesn't matter if they have 20 years experience or no experience. I don't want that. So it's more of like an energy and a willingness to work, and they're trainable.
Okay, great.
Next question's asking about the environment. Does it get loud or chaotic?
Loud, absolutely. Especially Dreamers Hookah Lounge. We have live music. Actually, we have a lot of events. On Wednesdays, we have a comedy night that is definitely loud because we have a DJ backup. Thursday with karaoke. A lot of the individuals that come in will do like spoken word. And I demand absolute silence during that, just as of respect for the performer. But Friday and Saturdays, when I leave here, I sit in my car in absolute silence so that my ears can stop ringing, so that when I go home, I might maybe be able to go to sleep in an hour or two after that. So it's definitely loud.
Are all bars like that, or does it just depend on the environment that you're in?
It definitely counts on the environment.
Okay.
And it counts on the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Before our live entertainment, we have, the lights low and are just playing, off of our computer, and it's a very chill environment. It's not very loud. Some of the other establishments, like a good friend of ours owns the Hideout. It's not, they serve a lot of alcohol, but it's not going to be the loudness, and it counts on that, the atmosphere. Okay. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
What about measuring ingredients? Do I need to, for every position, will I need to be able to measure ingredients?
For the waitress, prior to cross training, and again, I'm going to answer this specifically for Dreamers, they are not going to have to worry about the measurements. You do need to know the measurements for your liquor license, that a shot is 1.5 ounces. When I have people, ordering a drink and they're like, make it a good one. In order for me to do that, you have to pay for a double, so that I have evidence that you knew that you were consuming 2 shots instead of 1 shot, so that you're not saying, "Oh, I only had 3 drinks, officer," and they were actually equivalent to 6 drinks because somebody was hooking you up. Not only is that not good for me financially, but the consumer needs to know what it is that they are adjusting as well.
Okay.
Now, I had the majority, and let me grab this. When we first started and I had new bartenders, I purchased these caps that will pour exactly what is needed for a drink. Now that I have more seasoned people behind the bar, they get really frustrated because it takes longer
Mm-hmm.
because it has to fill up and then pour. And if you have,
Okay.
15 people waiting for drinks,
Sure.
we've moved now to more of just the open spot. And everybody kind of has their own, they'll figure out like what a good pour is. For me, it's a 3 count. I know that if I pick up a bottle, I'm going to do one without that 1, 2, 3 is so I don't need to measure it in a shot glass anymore because I can do it with my eyes, but I can feel it.
Okay.
I can feel, eventually you'll learn even just by the weight of the bottle. There's a lot of other things that you subconsciously pick up.
Sure.
But for a beginner, you just, practice in a shot glass. And when I cross-train my waitresses, it's like, okay, this has a shot of this, and you'll see them with the measuring cup and then dumping it into the cup. And then once the cup's full of ice, you can see, okay, if there's this much ice in here, I'll show you this. If this cup is full of ice, like it should, my 1 ounce liquor should be about here. Hopefully this works right.
There you go.
So you can see exactly where the measurement is. So now that I recognize that, I know if I fill my glass up with ice as it should be, then I don't have to measure. I know that I can eyeball it and that my liquor should be at this level in this particular glass.
Okay.
So it's practice.
It's practice.
Yeah. It's practice.
Practice and little tricks of the trade.
Yes.
To be able, and then, teaching someone, having that conversation with them as you're cross-training them.
Right,
Okay.
right. And I'm an application learner. I mean, you can tell me it's 1.5 ounces all day long, but until I actually see what it looks like and how it goes and how to do it, I won't remember that. That's also the way that I teach my classes is application. How do I apply this to real life? 1.5 ounces, I don't know what that is. Like in my kitchen, and it says 1.5 ounces of something, if I don't have a shot glass, gotta get, how do we convert ounces into these measuring cups that I have? And I'm a hot mess.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions right now, Taylor?
Yeah. How does the pay work? Is it tips only?
Good question. In the state of Indiana, our wait staff make $2.13 an hour. So this is why it's huge to, again, have that thick skin because, there are sometimes you'll have people come in and have a $50 tab and they'll tell you how wonderful you are and then tip you $2. And that can be very frustrating and very challenging. On the other end of the spectrum, we have regulars that, I'll give them a beer and every time I deliver a drink to them, they're tipping me $5. So I might get $50 from that customer alone that particular night. So the bartenders make $2.13 an hour. They do have to claim tips to ensure that through the labor board or work develop, whatever it is that eyeballs that. Obviously, that's something my partner takes care of for me. She does all the payroll stuff. But they do have to make sure that they make a minimum wage, at least a minimum wage salary. My bartenders start out at a higher pay scale. Usually, I think the average is usually around $5 or $6 an hour. And then again, they would claim tips as well as part of their pay.
Thank you. And you mentioned references, somebody who has good references. If this is like my first job or I don't have references, would I still be considered for employment?
You have references. Everybody has references. Whether it's, an old teacher or somebody from your church or, a neighbor that's known you since you were a kid and has seen you survive the obstacles that we call life. Everybody has some kind of reference. So if there are no references to check, I would be challenged to just hire somebody and not knowing if I'm introducing a power keg to my team, and that would be devastating. So and I don't even care if it's family references. Obviously your mother's going to say you're the best person that ever walked the face of the earth. But, if it was an aunt or a cousin for one of those references, because I require 3 on my application, for one of those, I wouldn't even care if it was a family member because you'd be surprised. A cousin might say, oh, yeah, as long as she doesn't, get upset and nobody gets in her face, then she's fine. Mm-hmm. That tells me something. Cousin didn't realize that this individual might be a little hot-headed and with people drinking and, being in this environment, that might not be a good fit for my particular establishment.
Okay. Great.
And then our last question right now is just asking about the hours, the shifts, kind of what does that look like?
We don't sleep. I will tell you the sleep aspect is really challenging because the rest of the world is, getting up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to start their day. And a lot of times, we don't get done cleaning and everything. We don't leave until 4. And it's like, if you were to get off at work at 5, do you just go home and go to bed? It's impossible a lot of times for us to just turn that key off at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it might be 6:30 before I can get to bed. And then having children and grandchildren, and I'm also a college professor having 9 o'clock lectures. There are a lot of times where it's a 3-hour nap and then I try and sleep later in the day. It was a lot easier when I was younger before I had all these other responsibilities. But with our establishment, we don't open until 6. So I have people that have shifts from 5:30 until close. And then I have people that don't come in until when we get busier, like 10 or 11 o'clock, and work until close. So theoretically, if we were slow, which I don't want, the first ones in would be what we refer to as cut, and we would let them go. We've been blessed, and I hope to continue to be blessed once the COVID stuff gets out, that our later hours are actually more productive. We have more people in here, and that's also where my staff makes their money, usually is the later time frames.
Absolutely. Do you have, so in a typical week, what are the busiest days just in general?
Before COVID or after COVID?
Let's do before COVID, because our COVID has had an impact on everyone and everything.
Right.
So let's do.
So prior to COVID, my actual fire marshal capacity in this establishment is 200 people.
Okay.
If I have 200 people in here, you don't see my carpet.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people, and I had to have more staff at that time too. Since COVID, our capacity right now is only at 100.
Right.
So I also on Fridays and Saturdays I have 8 security. On Wednesdays and Thursdays I have 6 security in here, just because as preventative measures, I want to make sure that everybody has a safe environment to be able to play in. So during the week was traditionally slow, but we've been blessed to have some amazing talent, local talent in Fort Wayne that has helped us with that. Tonight, Wednesday night, is one of our busiest nights now. Erin Montgomery, Am Too Funny, is a comedian, and we have an open mic night tonight where we have a lot of comedians that come in, or some people do spoken word, other different things, just highlighting the local talent that we have in Fort Wayne, which that has just expanded rapidly to where Wednesdays might become one of our busiest nights. Thursdays were horrible. 2 months ago, I had a gentleman that came in and ordered a Blue Moon draft every Thursday, and there were some Thursdays he'd be the only person that I would see.
Wow.
So it wasn't beneficial for us to even have the electricity on. I definitely didn't have staff here. It was just like me and one other person hoping for the better. Now, some of my team members, Tiffany, that I've worked with for multiple years, reached out to, again, a local talent, Eddie, and he has karaoke on Thursdays, and it has grown exponentially over the last couple of weeks, and each week has gotten better and better. And then Friday and Saturday, we have DJ Crazy K, and he has been with us since we opened the doors. And on nights that we have DJ Crazy K, both during COVID and prior to COVID, so even when capacity was 200, there have been multiple times where we have to actually lock the door because we're at capacity, and we'll have a line down the sidewalk waiting to get in. So I always joke that I might not have 2 nickels to rub together after this investment, but I've been blessed. I have an amazing team, and the talent that we have in Fort Wayne and the passion that they have, to support us has been an absolute blessing. So I really, at this point, am blessed to say I don't think we really have one night that's better than the other, because we're open Wednesday through Sunday. Our Sundays are more of a laid back, chill, relax. We don't have live entertainment. We do also rent out the lounge.
Okay.
So on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we rent out kind of like for private parties. We've done birthday parties, after funeral parties. We're actually doing baby shower this weekend. That's for one of our own. But we did things for Valentine's Day where we had a gentleman that rented the facility and charged his own cover charge and had acts, that came in and performed. And it was awesome. It was a really beautiful event as well. So we're just trying to build, those other days. And right now, Monday and Tuesday are kind of my staff day off to recoup, hang out with family, and get ready for the hustle and bustle. It starts again on Wednesday.
Wonderful. So we've done a lot of talking.
Yes.
So what I'd like to do is have Mika with our camera come back to this side of the bar.
Okay.
And just have you give us a little bit of a tour and then maybe make a drink or two. It's okay.
Yes, my staff didn't finish the dishes. That's
fine.
what not to do, guys.
That's fine.
Yes.
So not very many people have ever been behind a bar.
So each glass has a different purpose. The shot glasses, obviously, for the shots. These are for singles. These are for more of the doubles. And then some of our signature drinks, like our the Freaky Tiki and the Long Islands, would go into a 16-ounce glass.
Okay.
So it's important to know what type of glassware you need as well. So if someone came up and ordered like a rum and Coke, and my bartender is putting in a 16-ounce glass, that's no bueno, not good. Unless it was a double, and then that would be okay.
Okay.
Again, sorry, they attempted, I can see very well to try and do dishes. Now with our establishment, we don't have a kitchen. We don't have a full hood system. So we are reduced to just using an air fryer at this point, which has been pretty challenging. This is probably a mess too, but this is what our cooler looks like where all of the kegs live. So anything that has to be chilled, like our wine, champagne, rumplements, anything that's cold, we keep in here. Obviously the beer as well. And then we have a back storage area where we have like our hookah supplies and liquor room, extra glasses, things like that as well.
Okay.
Yes, some of you might be like laughing, trying to figure out why I have golf tees in my bottles. It's actually a protective mechanism so that if this is just open all night, that no dust or gnats or anything get in it. So I put golf tees in the ends of all of them to make sure that we don't have any extra friends floating in there that we don't want.
Absolutely. So what are these things on the wall up here?
So these, we refer to them as handles. We'll use our signature beer. We actually had our rep, we have a relationship with Upland that allowed us to rename their Champagne Velvet for our Dreamers crew. So they designed this handle for us. So when I pull this, it brings specifically, and it has been poured for a while, so it's going to not look as pretty as what it's supposed to. But it takes the beer from that specific keg, and then we have, 11 different types of beer on draft. So I have a list of like the opening duties that they should do, like filling up the straws, the napkins, filling up the ice bends, and then at closing time, they're supposed to cap the bottles and restock the beer in the cooler, those kind of things, to make sure that the person that's opening today doesn't have to come in and stock everything before they set everything up for the next day to come. And I guess I should have come in a little bit earlier to make sure it was pretty like it was supposed to be. But I think it's good to also recognize, again, the teamwork that this is a real thing that will happen. My staff will come in with smiles on their face. They'll stock everything. They'll get everything done. But the next time they see that bartender, they'll be like, stock your stuff, so that we're all carrying equal weight.
Beautiful. Wonderful. So you showed us pouring a beer. Can you show us a drink?
Absolutely. Let's
You choose.
do one of the kind of regular ones at every establishment that you'll go to, which is the Long Island. This can be overwhelming starting because it has multiple different liquors. And when I get new staff, they usually pick one bottle up at a time. But again, since I've been doing this so long, it's easier for me just to do it two at a time. So we just do, a Long Island has vodka, gin, rum, tequila, and triple sec in it. Since there's so much liquor, you really just put like a half an ounce of each in the glass. This looks like a ton of alcohol,
Right.
But through the experience of recognizing how much the ice consumes in the glass, it's not as much alcohol as it actually looks like. Now, with that being said, if you go to the bar and say, I want a rum and Coke with no ice, that doesn't mean they're pouring extra liquor for you. That just means you're going to have a warm rum and Coke.
Okay.
So, or if somebody says light ice, their drink, instead of being filled, now is going to be a quarter of an inch lower because of making sure that we're giving the correct pour.
Okay.
So, talking and working at the same time, a Long Island also has sweet and sour in it. And then you top it off with Coke. I have no idea why this is called a Long Island iced tea, because obviously there's no tea in this, in it at all. So we have several different flavors where, like, if somebody ordered a strawberry Long Island, we would just use the strawberry puree out of the cooler and put that in here and use Sprite instead of Coke.
Okay.
We are an upscale hookah lounge, so depending on, well, first we have a dress code, not only for my employees, but also for our patrons.
Oh, okay.
We don't allow any plain white tees, no track suits, and no hoodies. Okay. Period. We were a little lax during the week, but we're actually even changing that to where they're not going to even be able to bring them in during the week either. Okay. So for our staff, we do have shirts that have our logo on them, a family group text that we call it, where it won't be uncommon, where people have already, some of the girls have already been doing it. What are we wearing on Thursday? Because we're having the masquerade party. Oh, yeah. So they'll try and color coordinate, something to where everybody's wearing pink or everybody's wearing red. Or we also give the guys a hard time, like, we're wearing pink. Don't forget to wear your pink shirt. I don't have pink. We're going to buy you one. So we just try to make sure that it's appropriate. I did have one staff member that I actually had to let go because of inappropriate dress. It was not something that should have been viewed probably anywhere, but definitely not in this establishment. So after several warnings, there were some other issues as well. But yeah, I mean, you have to be professional. You can be cute, but you still have to be professional.
Absolutely. If someone was interested in applying for a position with you, how would they go about doing that?
The first thing would be to fill out an application, and that's going to have provide you the space to put those references on that we were talking about. Okay. And then we would set up a one-on-one interview. I'm a big energy person, so that interview to me is really important. My partner is absolutely amazing at what she handles in the business. Get an assessment of their personality, how outgoing they are. So that's something really important to recognize too. When you go to an interview, at a bar, you don't have to show up in a 3-piece suit, but you want to present yourself. This is your brand, and you want to make sure that you're marketing it well. Okay. That's great. That's great information, no matter where anyone is going for an interview. Absolutely. So I appreciate sharing that.
Where would we get the application at? Is that online, or would we need to come in for that?
No, you would need to come in. And I wouldn't put an application online, again, just because I need to see that individual. They could be amazing on paper, but if they're just not a nice person, I would want that one-on-one contact. Okay. So you would come in during the hours of operation, get the application. I've had some people that were here while they were hanging out with their friends, drinking and partying, and doing an application. I take it and try and call them a day or two later, but I really would prefer someone come in, fill out an application, and then you can come back and play later or whatever. So again, I'm a little bit more laxed than some. I mean, some people, if you were filling out an application at 2:00 in the morning after you've been drinking, again, this is your brand. That's not marketing yourself well.
You've done a great job showing us and introducing us to behind the bar, whipping up a drink. So we appreciate all your time.
I would say that I started bartending as a single mom because the schedule worked well for me. I had support team. My grandparents kept my children while I worked at night, so it worked really well. It was supposed to be a temporary thing. I love the interaction that I have with people. It also gave me the opportunity to go and be social, which I'm an extrovert. I needed that, but not feel guilty for leaving my children because I was working and making an income to take care of them. But it was supposed to be temporary to work myself through school. I've received 3 degrees since then, and I still bartend. I think it's one of the best gigs ever. So. Okay,
beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Okay, guys, I'll stand this way. Thanks, Erika. We will see you next week. If you have any additional questions, go ahead and you can email them to Yamika, to myself, to Taylor, and we will get them and the answers back to you from Erika. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.